of the things that you've always wanted to know about knitting and crocheting.
Yeah,
All
I've
of the
always
things
wanted to
in your
know the
heart.
intricacies of crocheting.
Just crocheting or knitting too?
Just crocheting.
Just crocheting, okay.
Knitting is for babies.
Okay,
That's my philosophy.
that's your philosophy. So
Yeah.
why do you have that philosophy from all of the vast knowledge of knitting and crocheting that you have?
I don't
Pre this
know.
podcast.
You just gotta pretend like you know things, and then people will respect you.
Gotcha. So you're the fake it till you make it type.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, solid. Okay. Well, I'm still gonna teach you a thing or two.
Okay.
And then I have something similar too, where I have 9 different acronyms or verbiage or just like words that knitters and crocheters use a lot.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have you guess what they are.
That sounds fun.
So, same way I had to guess all of your games last week, you get to guess all of this goodness. But I will give you a rundown of the top level differences between knitting and crocheting.
Okay.
Okay? So, crocheting is with the hook. So, you've seen that where, like, it's like one stick and then kind of has like a hook at the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
so that's
familiar with
crocheting.
the hook.
Yep. So you crochet with those and with only one of those. Okay? And
Okay.
then knitting is done with 2 needles. So when you see people with like 2 things,
That's what the grannies
knitting
use,
needles.
correct?
It is what the Yep. Grannies, lots of grannies also use crochet hooks. Also, lots of young people use both of them too, if I do say so myself.
Okay.
But I mean, just super interesting stuff. The hooks and needles can be a variety of different materials. So, like, I have lots of metal hooks and needles, but there's also wooden ones. And then, like, when you get into really fancy and getting to know lots of cool makers and stuff, there's lots of people out there that do, like, hand-carved crochet hooks.
Well, you
Uh-huh.
can get like custom crochet hooks.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I have a couple of really nice wooden ones, and then those ones are.
How much would it run you to buy a custom crochet hook?
It depends. So, for example, anywhere between. Actually, since we have the great Google, let me look up someone that I know. Okay, so there are some people here who do, theirs are wooden handles, but they have like the metal hook part, and
Yeah.
their prices start at 50.
50.
50. And then
That's pretty expensive, I think.
I mean, it is not when you think about how much time goes into making them, and if they need to make money, then they need to be pricing it accordingly, and they're handmade, and each one is pretty unique and individual. That's pretty cool.
I mean, custom things are always going to be spendy.
Mm-hmm. And then there's some people that do like customs, like those they'll do like wooden ones that are custom, and then some people have like where the handles are characters from like movies or like Disney characters, like Mickey Mouse on the end or something. People will get real fancy with them. A lot of those are like clay sculptures on their crochet hook handles.
That's cute.
So there's a whole niche out there for lots of different people to do things like that. So all over Etsy, if you want to see cool things, you can just go to Etsy and like look up custom crochet.
How much does a cheap hook cost?
I mean, like, you can get just like a plain metal one from Walmart for like $2 or $3.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, that's for people who are super into it and like want to spend the money on some like custom stuff, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to just like start getting into crocheting or knitting or whatever, you can pick up some cheap stuff at Walmart, at Joann Fabrics, at Michael's, any of those places, and get like $2 or $3 hooks to start out with and learn on.
Yeah. It's kind of like controllers. Like custom controllers can cost like $200 to like $300.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's all just a matter of what your priority is. Needles are like knitting needles. Mostly are just like either wooden or metal. They're not customized as much just because like you use the whole length of the needle for your yarn to go on. So there's
Makes
nowhere
sense.
for there to be like custom stuff done. Where a crochet hook has
Yeah.
like all of that extra handle space that your yarn doesn't go on. And then those are basically the main two differences, is the two needles versus the one hook, because then you have a bunch of different techniques that you do with the hook versus the needles, and it creates different patterns in the yarn that you work. But I mean, you work them both with yarn. Like for me personally, I am faster at crochet. Like it just works up a lot faster. Like I feel like I can finish something in crochet a little bit faster than I can knitting. But
Yeah.
that literally just depends on the person.
Yeah. So we're like crocheting and knitting like interchangeable. Like can you make the same things from both ways?
Yes and no. So
Yes and no.
yes and no, because people write people write patterns for each one. So like if you want to make a crochet dress, you just have to find a pattern for a crochet dress. And if you want to make a knit dress, you just have to find a pattern for knitting. So like you can make a dress in either knit or crochet. You can make a blanket in either knit or crochet. For a lot of people, like they prefer like blankets in crochet because it's a little bit sturdier, it holds up a little bit better, and they prefer to knit anything that they're going to wear because it's a little bit looser and it has a little bit of a better shape. But there are some really great crochet patterns out there for sweaters too. So I guess yes, the answer is yes, it's interchangeable. You can kind of do anything with one. It's just a matter of either making up your own pattern if it doesn't exist, or finding a pattern to follow for that thing you're looking for.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you prefer crocheting? Is that what you said?
I'm faster at crocheting. I don't know if I have a preference. For me, my preference depends on what I'm making.
What?
So for me, if I'm making a sweater, I prefer to knit sweaters just because of the way that they're built in patterns and everything. But I prefer to like crochet cardigans and like drapey shawls and stuff because I like the patterns that come in those. So it really, for me, it depends on what I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Any other questions before I move on?
No.
All right. Cool. So what I was going to just talk about next was some types of yarn that are out there. Because believe it or not, there's lots of different types of yarn.
Yeah.
So there are typically like 8 different categories of yarn that are numbered from 0 to 7.
Okay.
So 0 includes like your super duper like thin fine yarn that's called lace yarn. That like, have you ever seen, you know what doilies are?
No, I don't know doilies are.
So typically this is just stereotypical. Like in a grandma's house when they have like those white like things that are on the tables.
White things are on the tables.
Hang on, I'm gonna send you a picture.
Okay.
So that you can see what they are. Once you see a picture, I have a feeling that you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's a doily.
I don't know what this is.
You know what that is? Okay. Well, this
It
is
looks
a
like
doily.
a plate.
So lots of times, like when they show them in movies and TV shows, they're in like the old lady's house and they like are on tables and stuff as decoration. That's what the doilies are.
Okay.
So
you
anyway.
make this
So
with,
you can crochet
with
these
zero thread?
with like zero. Lots of these are done with like a crochet thread or like a lace yarn.
Okay.
Yep. So there's that. And then size or type 1, weight 1 is fingering yarn. So it's just a little bit thicker than lace, but it's still pretty thin, and people will make like really nice fine sweaters out of them.
Okay.
Or in that same category could be like baby yarn, so that they'll make like baby sweaters and stuff, so it's like super fine and super soft. And then category 2 involves, could also involve baby yarn, because like they can make it a little bit thicker if they want to, and it involves a lot of the sport weight, which just means it's a little bit thicker than the fingering. People still tend to make like sweaters and shawls out of that knit or crochet. And then DK, like
Donkey
the letters
Kong.
D and K. We're just gonna wrap some video gaming into the knitting and crocheting world.
He's not just a video game character, he's just a cultural icon.
Cultural icon.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong also knows how to knit because he's cool.
Probably.
But that's a category 3. And then category 4 is worsted weight. And so that's like your most typical yarn. Like because you work at Walmart, right?
Yeah.
If you go to like the craft section at Walmart and you go to the yarn section, like probably
like I do every day.
Like you do every day, just go take a gander. Like 95% of that yarn is probably Red Heart, and it's probably 4, like the number 4 worsted weight. Like it's just the most typical size that there is out there that a lot of people will use.
Okay.
And they'll use it for just about anything. You can use it for sweaters, you can double it up and use it for other things too.
That's the most common yarn?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say. And then you have the category 5, which is bulky. So it is kind of exactly what it sounds like, just big and bulky yarn. A lot of people will use it for like chunky sweaters.
Okay.
And it works up a lot faster since it's so thick. Like normally when you're knitting or crocheting for a certain amount of like inches. And so if your yarn is thicker, you're going to need less stitches and stuff to get to those inches, and it works up a lot faster.
Okay.
And then number 6 is super bulky. So a lot of people will use that for like really chunky hats.
Bulky.
Super bulky. And then number 7 is jumbo. And so lots of people will use that for like home decor things. So like people will knit or crochet pillowcases or blankets and stuff they'll do out of like the super bulky.
Okay.
Because then it keeps you real warm.
Are these like
it's real thick.
official names that people call them?
Yeah. And like if you go, so when you have all that free time and you go and wander the craft section at Walmart and you go look at one of those things of yarn, if you look on the label, it will have one of those numbers, either 0 to 7 on there, and tell you which weight and category it is.
Okay.
Because certain people will write patterns, and because there's a frick ton of math involved in knitting and crocheting, and making sure that the size that you make, that you're trying to make, is going to turn out to be the size that you need to fit you. And so you need to have a certain type of yarn to be able to make those measurements work and make sure that everything that you're making is fitting. So you need to know what size it is and which category it is.
Okay.
So if you go and look at the label of a yarn, it's kind of like it looks foreign when you first look at it.
Yeah. I bet.
You learn how to read it. Here, I'll send you this one. This is a little like a kind of older one. It looks like it's from like the 50s, but it's the same concept. So like that number 4, telling you that it's a medium. And then the one with the knitting needles, and then the thing that looks like a crochet hook, it's telling you like the size of needles that you would need to use to get those measurements when you're knitting and crocheting.
This looks like some type of encoded message.
We're really all just running the world through our knitting and crocheting labels.
Just
our yarn labels.
wingdings and numbers.
It does kind of look like that. And then when you're reading patterns when you first start out, it feels like that too. Like, honestly, knitters and crocheters just have their own language, which brings me to the fun part of our game here, of our episode. Are you ready to test your knitting and crocheting terminology knowledge?
Yeah. I think I know it pretty well.
All right. So, a lot of these are acronyms. So just like words, but they like you know what acronyms are. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is WIP. WIP. What does that stand for?
WIP.
WIP.
What is the problem?
Is that your final answer?
No.
All right. Would you like me to tell you?
No.
No.
When?
You can't be Googling.
When is the pizza?
When is the pizza?
That's my final answer.
Okay. Well, that's our own personal use of WIP. When is the pizza? It will be from now on.
Okay.
No, WIP stands for work in progress. So when knitters or crocheters talk about it, they'll talk about, I have 3 WIPs. It means that they have 3 different projects that they're currently actively working on that aren't finished yet. So they have 3 different works in progress.
Do you guys actually use that?
Oh yeah. If you go on like Instagram and you search #WIP, then it's all just full of knitters and crocheters that have tagged their WIPs. Yep.
That's kind of weird. I feel like I don't know anything else that like that.
Okay, so there's that. Okay, term number 2. Frog. So I will give you a hint. It is not the animal.
Yeah.
But what do you think that people use the term frog to describe in knitting and crocheting?
So it's not an acronym.
No, this one's not an acronym.
Okay.
This is a verb.
frog. Does it have any like relation to frog, or is it like super obscure?
So actually, just like this past week, I found out that it does kind of obscurely have a way to do with the word with frogs.
Okay.
But I didn't know that until literally this last week.
I'm gonna guess that frog means like frogs. They're like hard to get a hold of and everything. So it means like you're having trouble with a project, or like keep screwing up or something. Like I got a real frog that I'm working on.
Okay. That's not it, but that's a good guess. So, in a way, it's slightly related to that, though, because when you frog something, you're ripping it out.
Okay.
Because you messed up or are having a problem with it and it's not going the way you need to. So you're ripping out all of the work that you've already done.
Okay.
Which I literally just found out this past week that apparently the reason it's called frogging is because you're ripping it out, and that sounds like ribbit. Like what frogs say.
That's stupid.
Don't insult my craft.
It should just be called ripping.
So if you go, and people will talk all the time about how they had to frog their entire project, or they had to frog back 3 or 4 inches.
Oh.
And so that just means that they had to rip it out 3 or 4 inches, or they had to rip out the entire project to start over new.
Dang. I think I kind of got it, or at least I was in that vein.
You were in that vein of like the difficulty and stuff. So I'll give you that one. Okay, so the next one is also an acronym.
Okay.
And so it's a CAL or a KAL. So it's pronounced Cal either way, but one is a CAL or one is a KAL. And one has to do with crochet, which is why it starts with a C, and one has to do with knit, which is why that one starts with a K.
Crocheting or knitting. After late. That's what you say whenever you're like late into the night finishing a thing.
For your like 3 a.m. knitting and crocheting session.
Yeah.
Man, what a cow last night.
Yeah. Hashtag cow.
Cow. Well, that's not it, but I like it. If you do go search on Instagram, though, you will find plenty of hashtag cows either way. Yes, because it's called a crochet along or a knit along.
Okay.
And so people will use it because what people will do is if everybody will buy one pattern at once and they'll make it together. Like people will just get together in groups on Facebook or Instagram, and somebody could have just come out with a new pattern for a new sweater, and so they're doing a crochet along. So you all get your material at the same time and you start doing it at the same time. That way if you run into any problems, you have people in the group who are working on it at the same time that you can ask questions to. And so it's called a crochet along or a knit along.
That's cute.
It's very cute. All right. So the next one is also an acronym. LYS.
LYS. Lengthy. Yarn. Season.
Lengthy yarn season.
Yeah.
It's like when you go into overtime on all the yarn that you have.
Yeah. Or like this season, the yarn is really lengthy.
Had a really bountiful yarn harvest this year, so it's a lengthy yarn
The
season.
yarn will be plentiful this year.
Well, as much as I love it, that's not it. You did get the yarn portion though. The Y does stand for yarn.
Yo, I was
So
pretty
it's,
sure about that.
yeah. So it's local yarn store.
Okay.
There's a lot of like small independently owned yarn stores that are around. So like you have your big name craft stores like Joann and Michaels and Hobby Lobby and stuff, but like lots of people
Walmart.
independently, and Walmart, your local craft, your typical craft store, Walmart. But the local yarn store is like an independently owned small yarn shop. So people will put that all the time in like their posts and stuff that I went to my LYS, and they mean their local yarn store.
Okay. Have you ever used that?
Have I ever used that term?
Yeah, the acronym.
No. But I was probably knitting and crocheting for like 5-7 years before I figured out what it meant. It took me forever to figure out what it meant. I was always like, I don't understand.
Speaking in codes.
All right. Ready for your next vocabulary word?
Yeah.
Okay. Tink.
Tink?
Tink. Tink. And it's not an acronym.
Okay. Kind of sounds like tweak or like tinker. So I'm gonna guess like just means to like try something new or like try something that might work to get what you want or something like that.
All
That's
right.
my guess.
Well, it's a good guess. And I like the theorizing that you did use to get there, but that is not the case.
Oh no.
So, tink is literally knit spelled backwards.
Okay.
So if you look at it, it's tink. So
Yeah.
it literally means to unknit, like your last few stitches or your last few rows, without like taking it completely off the needles and ripping it out like with frogging. Like to tink, you're keeping it on the needles but undoing it.
Okay.
So
That's
that
kind
is...
of dumb.
Stop insulting my crafts.
I'm sorry.
I feel like I was much nicer when we were talking about video games.
Yeah, you were.
I was. All right, just a couple more left. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Yarn barf.
I feel like this should be like super simple, but maybe it's not.
Okay.
I think a yarn barf is like when like you're storing all your yarn and it all gets like tangled and messed up, and then that's like a yarn barf because it's all just clumped together. Or it could just be like a hiccup you had when doing like crocheting or knitting.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
That's
your first one was closest.
My two guesses.
Yeah. Well, your first one was definitely closest. So
Okay.
it is like a tangle of yarn, but it's not like when you're storing your yarn and it gets tangled. It's when you have a ball or a skein it's what's called center pull, which means you can take the string from the middle of it and pull it out, and it's supposed to just like your yarn's supposed to feed out really easily that way to unravel and use it.
Okay.
Sometimes it will get tangled within itself inside of that center area, and when you pull it out, just like this big tangled mess of yarn comes out, and that is yarn barf.
Okay.
So you were very close.
Yarn.
I give you that one too.
Sick.
Okay, I have 3 more.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Hit me with them.
Okay. Hank.
Say it again?
Hank.
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 Okay. So it's just a dude's name. Um,
The man who invented knitting.
yeah. But then everyone insulted him being girly.
There's lots of men in the knitting and crocheting community. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for
you should
them.
take-
I've tried my hand at it like 2 times.
Really?
Yeah. Can't say I remember much about it though.
Well, next time I'm down visiting, I have to teach Soraya anyway, so you can just join us.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try some.
You can make your own tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably won't be a good tie though.
No, but you'll have made it.
Yeah.
All right, but who or
Okay.
what is Hank?
Okay. So Hank backwards is can. I'm sure that's significant somehow. So this isn't an acronym, correct?
This is not an acronym. No.
Okay. I have no idea.
Okay. That's all right, because I'm here to teach you.
Okay.
So a Hank
No.
is...
I think Hank is the term that knitters use to describe somebody that's new and that's bad. Like
Oh, you
They're-
think it's like
they're
a
a
derogatory
Hank.
term?
yeah.
They're a Hank. Okay. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, that's my final answer.
All right. Well, that is wrong.
Okay. Bummer.
So, Hank is a. I'm trying to think of like the best way to describe it. Is a form in which yarn is sold. So, yarn is sold in a couple of different like configurations almost. So, like you said, when you look at Walmart, you know kind of like the ball that they have that then is wrapped in the label. So a hank is a way that like super fancy yarn is sold because it doesn't stretch the fibers. And so it's wrapped very loosely in like a giant circle, and then it's twisted and folded up on itself. So I'm going to send you a picture of a hank of yarn
Okay.
so that you can see what it is. So like all of my expensive hand dyed yarn, it comes in this. Oh, that wasn't right.
Okay.
Comes in this form, I guess if you want to say. Okay, here it comes.
Ooh, fancy.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a braid.
Yeah,
I guess it
So
is
a
a
lot-
braid, right?
kind of
Kind of.
a braid.
No, it looks like the long like donuts.
Yeah, like the twist donuts, like the cinnamon
Yeah.
twist donuts. It does look like that. But yeah, so this is a hank of yarn. All right.
Okay.
So
Fancy.
our second to last one is a skein.
Skin.
Skein. Skein. I just put it in the chat. That's how it's spelled.
Skein. Okay.
Skein. Uh-huh.
Well, sounds like skin, or like skim.
Skim. So I can give you a hint. Would you like a hint?
I'd like a hint.
Okay. It's also a form of, so like the last three, so hank, skein, and the next one I'm going to talk about are all kind of related and have to do with yarn.
Okay.
Okay.
So they're all like forms of yarn?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd say skein is like the basic yarn form for the babies.
For the babies.
For the baby boys. Yeah.
Okay.
Some people get shunned for purchasing this type of form.
So, it is like the typical when you go to Walmart. Like I'm sending you a picture now. Like when you go to Walmart, this is it. People are not looked down upon for buying it this way.
Are you sure?
But yes.
I don't think you're high up enough to know yet.
Are you kidding me? My 12 years of knitting and 6 years of crocheting doesn't put me high enough.
No, but these are like people who've been doing it for like 40 years. They take it very seriously. They only buy the best.
Okay, so this is a skein. So yeah, this is like the typical. You go to the craft store, you go to the Walmart, and the yarn is sold like this.
Got it.
All right, and so then my last one. You ready?
Yeah.
Yarn cake.
Yarn cake?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think this is the fanciest of them all.
Oh.
It's kind of like swirled around. And it forms like this little pyramid of yarn. Kind of like a cake building up on itself. And that is my final answer.
And that is your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the best form of yarn.
Okay. All right. I'm going to send you a picture.
Okay. This is lame.
So, this is not lame. So this...
I hyped it up too much.
It is called a yarn cake because it looks like one layered cake. It's flat on the bottom and flat on the top. This is what's called a center pole. So there is a piece of yarn in there that's in the middle that starts, and you can pull it, and all of your yarn's going to start coming from the middle, which is why it's called a center pole.
Okay.
Some people do sell them this way, but most people have like machines at home, like a yarn ball winder that makes them into this shape for you. So like a lot of people will buy the hanks or buy the skeins and then make them into a cake because it's easier to handle. Because like the balls, like if you just wrap it in a ball, it'll roll around as you're using it, which like there's also yarn bowls for that. There's a lot of accessories out there to like stop the woes of your yarn from running around. But I like to use the cakes because they stay in one place since they're flat. They can just sit on the surface. You're pulling it from the middle and they stay in one place.
That makes sense.
So those are the words I had for you to guess.
That was fun.
That was fun. So yeah, and just for like I said, a little bit of background, I knit and crochet. So I like to do both. Just kind of depends on what I'm trying to make, depends on what I do. Sometimes I get into like a rhythm and I knit for forever, and then I get into another rhythm and then I crochet for forever, and then I'll sometimes switch back and forth a little more regularly.
Okay.
And I've been knitting. I learned to knit in 6th grade from a book. And then I learned to crochet on my mission from an investigator. She taught me how to crochet.
Yeah.
So.
I remember you knitting pretty young.
Mm-hmm. Then I have lots of stuff that I've made. I have sweaters, I have dresses. I'm finishing up a cardigan for Tyler. I made Tyler a sweater. Hats. Lots of things.
Yeah.
So.
That's really cool.
I think so. It is pretty fun. So next time I'm down there, I'll teach you how to knit, and you can knit your own tie.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
And I think somebody should make a yarn cake with multiple layers.
Just keep building them up.
Yeah, that would be their magnum opus.
All right. Any last minute questions for me on this?
No. I think I'm all stuffed.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw it out there for our listeners that I have a knit and crochet Instagram. It's called Crafty as Crap. And you can go look me up.
Epic.
So basically that shout out's for Mom, our listener.
Yeah. Good job, Mom.